Right, good evening and welcome to episode 19, series 3 of Axiom Flux this evening, and we're going to be talking about nothing other than the general election that we just had last Thursday, was it? Yeah, with the polls on Thursday. And tonight I've got Jeff, Michael and Gina, also Blackall Bridger, but his connection is not too great, so he'll be in and out, I expect, throughout the evening. We'll have to play it by ear with Paul. Anyway, I'll just say good evening to Jeff. Good evening, Jeff. All right?
Oh, good evening, Stav. All right, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, great. Not too bad. Nothing's changed. Even though we had a general election.
Yeah, same old elections, isn't it, mate?
Well, if nothing changes, it stay the same, won't it? Yeah, and also we got Gina all the way from the US of A. Hello, Gina. How you going?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just interested in hearing what is going on in Britain.
I can explain.
Well, you've probably got a better clue than what we have, I'm sure. Also got Michael O. Good evening, Michael. How you doing? All right?
Very well, thanks, Stav.
Good to hear you. Good to hear you. And hopefully you can get things sorted out now on your side of things. It's been a while since we've had a chat, Michael. It's always good to hear you, mate. Right. Yeah. Well, what did we have? What's the upside and what's the downside? Has anything changed, or has it stayed the same? Well, we had if nobody's not aware, which I can't believe, but you never know. Somebody in the world probably not aware. I'm sure some parts of, I don't know, Africa or India or maybe even China, if they get this transmission, you never know. We had a general election last Thursday for a new government, or a change of government, or very much the same. And anyway, we started off, the incumbent government were the Conservatives. Those of you in the USA, they're, well, Gina will probably say, but I guess on a colourful basis, the Conservatives are sort of like your Republicans, and the Labour Party is kind of like your Democrats, kind of. Colour's the same. That's about it, though, I think. But there we are. This two-party system here, just the same as anywhere else in this so-called Western world, which seems to be just a two-party type thing. Paul's come back in, but I'm just going to just nip him down a minute. Yeah, okay, Paul. Well, we started the show now, so I'm just doing an introduction. That's all right, mate. No worries. I'm just sort of doing.
They've got control of my computer. There's no two ways about it. What's happening to me?
Oh yes, you see, the fat controllers control everything, don't they? That's the problem. But there we are. I can't remember what that. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so we had this general election, and it started off with the incumbent government, who called the election, had about a 20 odd, I don't know, perhaps the guys can get the numbers specifically, but 20 odd seats, majority. And after the election was done, they lost that majority, but they did still retain the most amount of seats. So they're back to seek a coalition with another party, and I think it's all been signed up and I think sanctioned by the Queen. Is that the right word? Is she religious? I don't know. Anyway, and it's with the DUP, which is the Democratic Unionist Party, as far as I recall. And everything's up in the air, and everybody doesn't want it. And there's people on the streets doing a few protests and all sorts of things. So it's a bit of a mess. It started out in a mess, and it's still a mess. So anyway, I don't know if one of you guys want to kick us off, or what your views are. I'll put it over to you, Jeff, and then to Gina, and then to Michael, just with 5 minutes of what you make of the whole thing. Over to you, Jeff.
Okay, Stuff. Cheers, mate. Well, it's quite an interesting thing, to be honest, right from the start, because Theresa May still had a good 3 years left in her term of office before she decided to call a snap election, which is quite unusual. So obviously there was a bit of an agenda there going on.
Interject here, Predator.
Yeah, sure.
Theresa May calling this snap election, I got sent a re-registration form to vote. Now, I was already on the registratorial list, yeah, so there was no need for that, but I still couldn't vote because I sent it back and they did not send me a polling card.
Well, you can actually still vote without a polling card if you're actually on the register, as far as I'm aware, Paul. But
I tried that once before and that denied me.
right. Well, I suppose a certain amount of time has to expire before you're, officially on the register. But once you're on the register, you can actually technically vote without a polling card, I believe. But I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, well, unless of course you're a denizen, but that's a different matter.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying. It's a bit strange because she had 3 years left in her term of office and she called this snap election. I think, to be honest, it's something to do with Brexit. And I personally felt the way she conducted her campaign, which was pretty poorly, to say the least, that there was an agenda to throw it into disarray deliberately, in the hope that maybe the Labour Party would get in. Who knows? She might have taken a bribe off the European Union, and Mrs. Merkel might have said to Theresa May, "Call a snap election and lose it." You don't know. Very strange how it's gone, but. Neither a majority for either of them, but they both increased their share of the vote. I mean, I think Theresa May the Tory party increased by about 5.5% of the vote, and the Labour Party by about 9.5% of the vote, if I'm not mistaken. And the Tories lost about, I can't remember how many seats they lost. I think about 16 seats or something, and the Labour Party gained about 30 seats. Yes, the Lib Dems, they also gained some seats. UKIP got totally wiped out, so it's the end of UKIP as far as I'm concerned for the time being, unless Nigel Farage comes back into it. One good bit of news about the election I was very happy with was that Nick Clegg got scalped. Because nobody liked Nick Clegg, let's face it. So the fact that he lost his seat, that was quite pleasing to see. And the expression on his face, he had a face like a smack bottom, from what I recall. I don't know. What do you think, Stav?
Well, I think a lot of it's show. He's probably going to earn much more money. Now he's not a politician, because they always do. I mean, the whole idea is that they set themselves up into after being politician in all sorts of corporate advantages, don't they? Because they've they've appealed to their professional lobbyists and corporates that they're obviously offered a nice little directorship and the rest of it when they leave office, so they can't look forward to it. I think that's why David Cameron was laughing. And he had a big smile on his face when he left Number 10. So they're all of a sudden, whatever they've got is in trust, and you can't view how much they're worth, like a certain Tony Blair. And we could go on really, and the Thatchers were no different, etc. But
we won't have to call him the Right Honourable Nick Clegg now, will we? Not that he was ever honourable in the first place, so No. Yeah, well, I mean, just for the audience and also everybody else on there. I mean, I'm a political atheist, so there you are. Do I have an opinion on it? Or I really shouldn't, but I mean, as I'm here, like sort of thing. But it might be political system. But hey, I mean, there's nothing in the whole scam and the whole scheme of political parties that is honest. As for the common people, and it's never been there since they formed political parties called Conservative and Whigs and whatever. But there we are. It's not apathy. Some alternative media from certain
alternative shows. It's got nothing to do with apathy. I just in them, you know. And it's not that I don't believe in a democracy. I don't think you've got a democracy. So there we are.
We're in a default.
And I could go. So I mean, I'm not going to go on about it. You guys know where I stand. I'm thinking anyway. So I'm not going to go into anarchism and all these other words and all that sort of thing. It's just that I've seen many actions come and go for the same reasons, and I've done my research, and that's
the one thing they're all talking about is the negotiating position for Brexit. That seems to be the talk of the town now, because Theresa May went into it with quite a...
That's true, isn't it? If you're a constitutionalist, which we must ask, I'm going to actually ask Michael this, so hopefully Michael will hang about if you can, Michael, is what is beyond a joke is what they call, it's going to have a club. You can have a coffee club, a dart club, a cricket club, a corporation. You must have a constitution. You've got to have rules, okay? Especially if you're going to collect 10 pence for a cup of tea or 5p. You must have a treasurer. Therefore, you must have a committee. Well, therefore, you must have a constitution. And when they say we don't have a constitution, is a complete and utter disgrace, because that is an act of treason in itself. You know, to say that Parliament is sovereign.
What they say is,
I've looked into the constitution.
a written constitution is what they say, isn't it? But we have, but it's in several documents.
Listen, if you've got no written constitution, that means you've got no rules, okay? But we have rules that we have to abide by, but they don't. Okay, let's get it right. That's not a that may not be a constitution. That's correct. It may not be a constitution at all, because you can't have rules for one and not the other. You know. So I find it most ridiculous. I find it most ridiculous that they can come out.
But we've got one in several different documents. Of course, the most famous being the Magna Carta, but also
that's right. Well, I don't even go to that argument anymore, Jeff. I don't, because all you're doing is playing their game. When they say, "Oh, it's uncodified, it's unwritten," well, you're saying we don't have a constitution, okay? That's what you're saying.
I'm saying we do have a constitution.
I know. But then that's an argument, and that's a debate, and that will go on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
I think we have common law, and we have a constitution, and we have all of that. And you know what? No political party is ever going to take that away from people. All they can do is convince people it doesn't get there. And as the generation goes by and it's not put in the schooling and it's forgotten by generations to come, nobody will even know what a constitution is, okay? And that we ever had one. So that's the reason why I think it's like that. But anyway, I've had a big talk about this. I was going to put it over to Gina, and then over to Paul, and then over to, well, I'll put it over to Paul, then to Gina. Or was Gina in first? I can't remember. Whichever, I'll put it over to Paul while you're here, Paul, and then I'll put it over to Gina and then over to Michael to tell. Yes, yeah. What do you think of this whole game, Paul? What, you know, the election just generally and the whole thing, yeah?
Well, it's the trouble is, as soon as these people gain these seats of power, they think they're above the law, or they start acting above the law, but putting out that they're acting within the law. And this is the smoke and mirrors that they keep playing with us all the time.
But they don't have the rule of law, because we don't have a constitution. So what is the law?
But we do have a constitution, no two ways about it, and they are committing treason.
Oh, we know that, but they say they don't. So they don't have no rule of law either. Hold them to the fire. Hold what they say. That's what I say. Hold their feet to the fire on what they say rather than what we say, because they're saying we don't have a constitution, so therefore we don't have the rule of law. So how can they enforce a law that does not follow a rule of law?
But it makes me laugh when all of a sudden they come out, well, we're going to have a new constitution, yet they keep saying there's no constitution. So how can you have a new one when they're saying there wasn't one in the first place?
Exactly.
You know, they shoot themselves in the feet all the time, but the people of the country just don't seem to pick up on it.
Well, the thing is, your common law, we've got a common law jurisdiction in the United Kingdom, and in fact, it's the same in all the Commonwealth countries. You've got a common law jurisdiction. So it's common law by default. The rest of it has to be consented to because we're governed by consent. Even all the politicians say that we're governed by consent. So, you know, if we don't consent and we fall back, all we've got is we stand under common law.
That's right, absolutely. And I think that's what people are not being taught in school. They're being taught statutory rules and legislative rules that come from man-made parliament, which is, you know, opinion, hearsay. It's just a group of guys with some suits on in a little dusty office in Westminster that says, I got a good idea. It's my opinion, but let's put it in legislation, put it through parliament and make it a law. Well, that's just opinion. That's just hearsay.
But as soon as
that's how I look at their rules.
As soon as you speak against these people, we're extremists. According to David anyway at the UN meeting.
Well, listen, I'm an anti-corruption, anti-gangster, anti-unlawful extremist. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and the gangsters are actually in Parliament. They are the criminals, and the gangsters. They're actually sat there in Parliament. Not every one of them, obviously.
They're not
the majority of them.
They're not gangsters, Paul. They're planksters.
Yeah.
I think Gina's just sent me a message, said she'll be back in a minute, so I think she might have the phone or something. Let's put it over to Michael. What do you think of this election and falsehoods and farce and whatever it is, and lies and deception, and he said, she said, I'm going to be a better leader than them because I got a nice red colour, and no, I'm better than you because I got a nice blue colour. Is there really anything about it that is different this time round, Michael?
Not a lot, really. Well, the Italian and the German economies are teetering on the brink, which means if they collapse, the EU goes down with them. I've got a feeling that Merkel and all the others in the EU realise that, and they're trying to get Madam May to help shore up what's basically a sinking ship. So that's a situation we have in Europe. With regard to the constitutional situation, the British people were never put to a referendum as to whether Parliament should sign or ratify any of these treaties.
Yeah.
That was never done. We've never had any say. The politicians, or to put it more accurately, the City of London, decided they thought they know what was best for us, and they just tried to steamroll it through.
So therefore, it's null and void, is it not, Michael?
Well, it's what I think is going to happen sooner rather than later is that May or whatever other assorted troublemakers is going to open their gob, say the wrong thing, and I'm afraid the British people are just going to turn on the politician, and they'll turn on the City of London, and that'll be it. Because what she's come out with in the last day or so is she's taking it out on the pensioners for their cold weather payment. She's trying to reduce other payments as well. Well, she's either lost the plot, or possibly and this is not an insult to her personally. A lot of people don't realise she has type 1 diabetes. Now, a friend of mine who used to be a doctor saw a photograph of her, and she said her skin is very grey. Now, when a type 1 diabetic's skin goes that greyish colour, it's an indication that their kidneys are failing, which is a major risk with diabetes, and it's quite likely that she is going to need dialysis, which means it's quite likely she'll have to step down as leader of the Conservative Party, and probably from politics altogether, because if she tries pushing it, she'll basically kill herself.
Not sticking up for her, Michael, but do you think that may be the reason why she didn't attend the BBC One debate?
I wouldn't like to hazard a guess. You may well be right, Paul, because I mean, if you've got type 1 diabetes, that means you are on insulin, whether you like it or not. It's out of the two types, it's the worst type you can get. And you, with type 1, you are nearly always on insulin from the word go, because it normally starts in childhood. At the moment, the most powerful piece of legislation we've got that we can use against politicians who think they know better than the people is the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, that was drafted in 1947 in the aftermath of the Second World War, and it was ratified it was brought into force and ratified in 1950. Now, a lot of people don't realise this, but one of the original signatories to the treaty, besides the Brits, who were the ones who drafted it, was Russia. And the Russians have been part of the Council of Europe ever since its formation after the Second World War. The Council of Europe is made up of the 52 countries that are signatories to ECHR. The Council stands for three things: that's human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. The European Commission, that is a political and trade body. I mean, although they say, oh, the two are conjoined, like conjoined twins, no, they're not, because the Council of Europe has a Secretary General and is a completely separate body, because that's the body that runs the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. The court itself has two parts to it. It has the plenary chamber, which is the main court. You get up to 12 judges sitting in that at any one time, drawn from right across the 52 countries that form the Council of Europe. And you've also got some more senior judges who sit in the Grand Chamber, which is the appeal section of ECHR. Now, if the plenary court and the Grand Chamber cannot come to a decision, it gets passed to the Council of Ministers, who are sort of the highest authority on human rights in Europe. But, like I said, at the present time, ECHR is our most powerful weapon against abuses of power by the state. I've seen it used, and I've also quoted it myself, and I know people who've quoted it as well. And it has turned public servants' faces white. They do not like it. Common purpose don't like it because it puts them back in their box. A lot of public servants hate it. As soon as you mention those words, it's like you've just sort of you kind of become a vampire.
I presume this is why Theresa May wants to get rid of the European human rights. Is it?
Yeah, exactly, Jeff. She hates anything which holds her and her malfeasant MPs to account. The Tories have got this mentality: we know best, we've got a God-given right to govern. No, they bloody well haven't. I mean, they couldn't run a bloody bath. They're so incompetent.
Well, with the alleged national deficit is gone from 1 trillion up to about 1.75 trillion in debt.
I don't believe them. In fact, I think you'll find a lot of it is a pack of lies. Because because they reckon this so-called austerity is a scam. It is a scam to try and get people. What they're trying to do is
a scam because austerity has never worked in the history of economics. Never.
No, because what they're doing is they're saying, oh, we've got to cut back, and what they're doing, giving tax cuts to the rich, which is their usual scam they pull. But the thing is,
they're siphoning public assets into private pockets. That's what that doing.
Yeah, you bet the nail on that head there, Paul. I mean, you got it bang on the button, mate. But the thing is, the people are waking up, and the speed with which they're waking up is frightening. There was something that came up a few weeks ago, and I was speaking to one of my neighbours, and by golly, they said I think it was to do with one of these so-called terrorist, in inverted commas, attacks, and they said it's getting pathetic. You can see it's all staged. They are making mistakes that everyone is noticing. Now, being an ex-policeman, you get to learn how the criminal mind operates. It's called criminal psychology. And what tends to happen is they start off, they're reasonably careful, then they get confident, and they start making little mistakes that nobody notices. Well, then they get cocky, and they start making mistakes that a number of people. Then they start to make even bigger mistakes, and then they make ones that everybody notices. And that's when they get caught.
Funny you should say that, Michael, because I was going to say, when I said about alleged deficit of 1.75 trillion allegedly, it's funny how they still manage to find money for war, isn't it? Because
it comes off Amber Rudd's magic money tree, does it not?
It does, yeah. The other thing that's come out in the last few days is this one in Manchester. They found out that the so-called terrorist is actually part of a secret group that MI5 have been handling and been sending to Syria. So this happened with the troubles in Northern Ireland. The commander-in-chief of the IRA has since been shown to be an MI5 officer. So basically what the troubles in Northern Ireland were with the British government attacking its own people, trying to bomb them into submission.
Yeah, it was a UK-style Gladio.
Yeah, what is going to happen? They're going to do one more. I reckon they're going to try and pull a stunt. This is what the government will do. They'll try and pull a stunt. The people will say, right, that's it. We've had enough of you. We're taking you down. Now, they've got it into their minds. People are going to take to the streets and riot. No, they won't. They're not that stupid. Because when they had the Croydon riots, they found it was MI5. They were Blackberries coordinating all the rioting and the looting. So we know that is staged. What I reckon will happen, and it seems pretty clear, pretty much near the mark, but what I think you'll find will happen, there'll be a tipping point. When that tipping point comes, you'll get people just march on London en masse. Now, the indigenous population of London kind of hovers around the 8 million mark. If you've got as much as 10 or even 20 million more people suddenly descending on London, I mean, the police can try and stop the coaches on the motorway. I think the people will just say, get out of our way, or we'll take you out. And if they say, we've got guns, they say, well, we'll just trundle over you with an 18-ton coach. So get out of the way, you twat.
It'd be just like the waves breaking on the shore and moving the seaweed away, wouldn't it?
Well, it won't, because if they're coming from all directions. I mean, the thing is, Paul, there's only about, I mean, the number of police in this country, it used to be about 143,000. You'd be lucky if you can muster about 115,000 now, if you're lucky. It's no good at bringing in the army, because a lot of the army will think, hang about, and we're attacking our own bloody families. And the moment she tries to bring in foreign armies, that is an act of war against their own people, and that is when she loses it. She loses any legitimacy and any credibility completely. But what I think will happen is that you will get people just suddenly descending on London. They won't even say, "Oh, we're going to hold a demo." They'll just suddenly descend on London. 20,000 students proved they can bring central London to a halt. They did this in Parliament Square and brought the whole of central London to a halt. They'll just descend on the Houses of Parliament. They'll go in through the doors. They'll just go into the two chambers and say, right, you lot, we don't want you running this country anymore. You're not fit to run a bath. Get out. And if they don't get out, and they don't get out of their own accord, I think they'll just be grabbed hold of very firmly and frog marched out the door, and the doors will be locked. And this is what this has been coming for a long time. This has been coming for a long time. The people have just about had a belly full of them. They're not going to take it anymore.
Well, then, of course, the problem then exists. Who fills the vacuum of power? Because quite often after an ousting, as it were, you quite often get a worse situation in depending on who fills the vacuum of power.
Right. What happens in Lithuania, Jeff, is that this happened. What they did is had the Orange Revolution. What happened is the Lithuanian people descended on the government building in Vilnius, and what they did is they went into the government building and they ordered the civil servants to leave, and they went into the chamber where the communist, well, I don't know whether you call them MB because they're not. They said, right, we would like you to leave. We do not want you running this country anymore. They refused, so somebody put up a smoke bomb, which was coloured orange, which forced them all out. And strangely, it was a fairly peaceful transition to a new government. Now, whether Soros was behind that, we don't know. But it's going to come to the point. There's going to be a tipping point when the people of the UK will have had enough. They'll say, "Sorry, no, we're not putting up with this any longer."
They've done the same thing in Iceland, haven't they? Not in the not too distant past, where they basically threw the government out, they threw the bankers out, and threw them all in jail.
And we had media coverage over Iceland. No, because it's working.
Yeah. And this is what will happen. The people will take back the power from the one thing that the City of London are doing is they're putting up this so-called ring of steel. Now, it's pretty. I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb when they're doing that. They know what's going to happen. They can see there is going to be a takeover, and they don't want their little scam to be brought to a halt. It's going to be brought to halt whether they like it or not. Now they think they can say, oh well, we're going to be bombed. No terrorist, any savvy terrorist, is not even going to use explosives. They will take out their communication system, the infrastructure, and that's how they'll do it. Any terrorist with a rudimentary knowledge of electronics could bring that city to a juddering halt very quickly, and it can do it with something that resembles a mobile phone. It's called an electromagnetic pulse generator. Just go along doing that to all the telephone junction boxes. Bang, yeah. They can encrypt all the City of London in I would say in less than an hour.
Yeah, and we have people in the public that can do that.
There is a device that you can use to do that. It's called a pinch. Once you've got a pinch, you can produce a very powerful electromagnetic pulse, and it will fry.
That's it.
It will fry anything that's basically electric. It has the same effect as when you let off a nuclear bomb. You get a wave of electromagnetic pulse.
That's it.
And it fries everything within a certain radius. That's right.
Well, they reckon if terrorists wanted to bring the City of London to a juddering halt, they could do it in less than an hour, possibly even less than that, just by using these devices. Jeff, it's that simple. I mean, these idiots in this so-called New World Order who think that we're going to kind of go along with this scam they're pulling with bombs and things like that. No, a savvy terrorist is going to use a lot more. They're a lot more sophisticated. I mean, I was in the Metropolitan Police around the time. Well, I was in Cannon Row Police Station the day that Airy Neve got blown up in the underground car park underneath the Houses of Parliament. Yeah,
right.
That did get people frightened. But as time's gone on, people are beginning to sort of think for themselves and are thinking, hang about, this doesn't add up.
Hang on a sec, Michael. You said about the word. You said the word terrorist there. Well, if it's somebody legitimately ousting the government, a corrupt government, I wouldn't call that a terrorist. I call that a freedom fighter, more of a freedom fighter than a terrorist.
Yeah, well, with Harry Nave, he was. What they did is they put a bomb underneath his car, right underneath the driver's seat, and then they put a wire to one of the wheels, and as the car was driven out, of course, it found the wire and pulled a pin out, and bang, up it went. And he happened to catch the full blast. No, they said it was a terrorist incident. I mean,
right
now it's come out that it was an MI5 officer in charge of that whole thing. It does start asking some serious questions.
Yeah, I think everything's been turned.
He was murdered, but he wasn't murdered by the IRA. He was murdered by MI5 and some very, very shadowy figures who clearly trying to push this New World Order agenda. Or with David Rockefeller now in the on the, as they say it, in the other realm, if they'll let him in there. And you got Henry Kissinger apparently running around fluffing like a seagull because he's realised that his cohorts are sort of either disappearing, kind of either through death, or they're being rounded up and put where they deserve to be, behind bars, trying to get it off the ground. It's not. I mean, the guy he's a dead man walking, and I don't mean dead in the physical sense. I mean dead in the sense that he's a wanted war criminal. I mean, Rumsfeld, Cheney, and George W. Bush, they've been convicted in absentia in The Hague. Now The Hague is demanding that they are brought to The Hague to face their sentence. I mean, they can't at the moment. They cannot leave America because at the moment they set foot outside America, they are going to be taken straight to The Hague.
I'm scared. Just like Tony Blair now, they're running scared.
In a minute, I can see people going into the USA and arresting them and taking them to The Hague, saying, "We don't care if what the American FBI or the CIA is saying. They are wanted war criminals. They are going to The Hague. You stop us, and we'll take you lot out." So forget it.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that would like Tony Blair to be sent to The Hague, to the war crime tribunal.
I think he will, Jeff. I think he will eventually. He's not fireproof, although he tried. They like to give the impression he is. He's not.
There's no way he's going to escape it. No way.
No, eventually. I mean, Kissinger. I think I'll put money on it. Kissinger's next on the list to be taken straight to The Hague. And I've got a feeling Julia Middleton is the CEO of Common Purpose is going to be one of them. Because that woman has been going into the cabinet office. She's not an elected member of parliament. She's not even a civil servant, and she's been influencing government policy. Now that is not right. She should be. Well, what they should do is pay her a visit in the middle of the night. Go straight. She gets put on the first ruddy shuttle straight across the channel into mainland Europe and straight up to The Hague. Under police escort if necessary.
I think maybe what we need to do as a deterrent, Michael, is to stick some gallows up outside Westminster, and just to give them a gentle reminder of what their job and their duties are.
Well, yeah, would it work though, Jeff? This is the thing.
Might give them some food for thought, though.
Yeah, hanging around. Oh, sorry.
Well, we've had this hung parliament, you know. Maybe this is a real hung parliament, you know.
Oh, here we go with the hanging jokes.
Guys, can I just cut in because I think Gina wants to test her microphone, if it's all right, and then we'll get Gina's. Let's see what Gina's take is from the other side, from one of our American cousins. All right, give it a go, Gina. See if it's working. Oh, very quiet, sweetheart.
I can barely hear you, Gina.
Okay, how about now?
Oh, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
It's a bit better. I could do with a little bit more.
A little more.
Bit more. 1 2 1 2 test.
One, two.
Hello.
Now earlier on,
flat
Gina's voice was
I want
clear,
to be
clear as
flat out on the audio.
loud and clear.
Oh, good.
Ah, ooh, that was nice and clear.
Oh man, well, I have a
Oh,
podcast.
that is clear as a bell, Gina.
Thank you. I have a podcast studio that I'm still learning how to work, and I did my first couple of Google Hangouts, but I don't think we use it on Axiom because I haven't put two to two together. But today we're having such rain here on the East Coast. It's pounding down in the house, and with everything muted, it's very hard to hear you guys. I don't have an external microphone. So I missed quite a bit of the commentary from Michael. What I did hear was very intriguing. It sounds very similar to Empire techniques that they've used throughout the years. I mean, it's not like they've changed their playbook. I just think that the internet is helping us to perceive and see this with a little more transparency than what they've done. And it really would be nice if some of the human rights people end up in front of the Hague. That would be like a dream come true. I don't know if we'll see it, but it would be
Yeah, Gina, you've gone a bit 10-1 again.
That's garbled.
okay. How about that?
Yeah, it's sort of is there 1 minute and gone the next sort of thing, you know.
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
No, it's not your problem, not your fault, is it, Gina? It's just technical issues you've got there, I think.
Yeah, technical issues. And the fact I don't know how to use the equipment. Yeah. How's that testing?
Sounds that's a lot clearer now.
Yeah. No, I just, like I said, I just used the same playbook the Empire has used throughout the years. And to see some of these people tried on human rights violations and be called into the Hague would be wonderful to see it ever happen in my lifetime.
Well, I think the majority of people are well aware now that the Al Qaeda and the ISIS were basically created, funded, and trained by the United States government and the UK government and other various assorted allies like the Saudis and all that. They're all involved. They're all up to their neck in it, basically. So, I think most people are getting to the point where they're well aware of that.
Yeah, but with Henry Kissinger, yeah, there have been reports of him flopping like a seagull. He's realised that the whole of this new world order setup is falling apart, and he's desperately trying to shore it up. And unfortunately, it's not going to work because they've got members of the cabal being secretly arrested around the world. Bankers are being pulled in. I mean, the Spanish have started arresting bankers. The Swiss have tightened things up. I think it's only going to be a matter of time now before other countries start doing the same. But like I said at the beginning, the Italian and German economies are teetering, and all it needs is one of them to sneeze and collapse, and the EU collapses with it.
We do need the European Union to fall apart, don't we? Basically, to finish off.
The EU will collapse. Now, where does that leave this new world order? It leaves them with one of their main building blocks. It's going to leave it in ruins.
That's what we're all hoping for, I think.
Well, the thing is, Jeff, the Italians are struggling to shore up their economy, and it is literally teetering on the brink of collapse. And the Germans' economy, they say, if the German economy goes, that's it. It'll collapse very quickly. The Italians, though, because the Italians, the Germans, the French, and the Brits are kind of the main ones in the EU, and they're also Council of Europe, original members and signatories to ECHR. Yeah, those four. You get one of those four go down. That's it. The whole stinking edifice goes down with it.
The three biggest.
It would help. It would really help if they unplugged the Bank of International Settlements.
I think, the Bank of International Settlements. That's, well, we all know that's a Rothschild front.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, but I mean, the Rothschilds seem to be sort of, they know that things are not going the way they want them to. I mean, you've got Israel seem to think it can just kind of raise its middle finger to the rest of the world, and I mean, the Russians have more or less told them, yeah, keep doing that to us, matey. We've got quite a few nuclear missiles pointed in your direction. Yeah, do that again, and we will wipe you off the face of the earth. And I think the Israelis have gone very quiet.
I think, to be honest, the biggest boy on the block at the moment, is Russia, Michael, because they seem to be investing heavily in new types of super tanks and super helicopters and jet fighters and all sorts. They've got their nuclear capabilities is second to none. I mean, they've got a thing called the Satan II. Just one of those nuclear bombs called the Satan II can take out a country the size of France. Just one bomb.
That's off an EMP, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think even America would be hard pushed to beat the.
This is how they reckon. They'll deal with America. But with Putin, one thing that strikes me about Putin, he's not stupid. He knows exactly what's going on, and I get the feeling, as I do from friends I've got in Russia, the Russians do not want to get involved in a war, and neither does Putin.
I seen something interesting, actually, Michael. You're talking about Putin there. I seen something earlier on. Don't know whether it's correct or not. I didn't have a chance to verify it, but it looked like an assassination attempt on Putin.
Yeah, what they've all been saying is the Russians were responsible for this. The Russians, yeah, they're just trying to spark off World War III, and every time they do it, Putin's going, "Oh, don't be so bloody stupid." And of course, it's just making the shills exactly what they are, a bunch of idiots. I mean, Russia is one of the biggest countries on earth, and they do not want to get involved in this sort of thing. He said, I've watched where he's given public addresses to the media. He said, who would win? None of us. He said, we'd all be obliterated. He said, so what are we achieving? Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is although the guy is ex-KGB, I will give him his credit where it's due. He's got his head screwed on the right way. He knows that if a nuclear war starts, nobody's going to survive it.
Well,
this will just be a radioactive lump of rock floating around in space, which nobody will be able to come near for centuries.
Out of the world leaders, Putin seems to be the only statesman out of them. The rest of them are just a load of idiots.
I was about to say that, Paul. You're absolutely right. He is an international statesman, and I've got a feeling, kind of, when a push comes to shove, and Trump is, well, there's this sort of conspiracy theory going around that he'll be assassinated. He's been put in there to do a job, and if he tries to start a war, I mean, yeah, he's a sort of idiot who would do things like that. But Putin, he, as you say, he is a statesman, and he is trying. He's kind of like the power. He's like sort of the peace broker. He's saying, "Look, guys, stop being idiots. Nobody's gonna win if we go down that route. So stop trying to wind us up. We're not going to bite. We're not going to rise to your bait. So cut it out." Cut it out.
I've noticed that he hasn't ever risen to the bait, has he, Putin? They egg him on, blame him for this, blame him for that, and he's quite calm about it. Everything, he's quite calm and collected, and like you say about the Russians as well, they're very good strategists, very good battle strategists.
They're brilliant military-wise. They are. They're better strategists than us.
I
One
also saw a special one time there where Putin was kind of admonishing Western reporters to let the American people know that when the communists fell, they primarily built their defense systems, and that their defense systems cannot accurately tell if a missile is launched from America, whether it's tipped with a nuclear warhead or not, and that he feared that the Western reporters would not report to the Americans that um, he would defend his country, and that even if it's just a ballistic missile that's launched, they had no capability to tell if it was nuclear or not, and he would have to use the necessary means to defend his country and his countrymen. And I thought that was pretty clear. And I also thought it wasn't reported in mainstream media. It's amazing how much is denied the American people when it comes to what's truly going on the world scene. It's like we're good little slaves over here. We have a 60% of our taxes go to the military budget, so we don't have a lot of, to say about foreign policy or anything, because we're pretty effectively, the military thugs for, I would say, City of London and banking interests and corporate interests. And so the American people go about their day pretty well, much sapped, week to week, living week to week. I don't know how it is for people over there, but I think it's a beautiful thing when you do see a statesman that can speak to commonalities of our humanity and don't digress from that point. Try to stay on that.
Yeah.
Contact I have with people in Russia and also with the United States, Gina, I find they're very much like ourselves in Britain. A very similar way of thinking. Nobody wants a nuclear war. I mean, the Russians. I mean, yeah. Where I live, we've got a major naval seaport. We get Russian ships coming in. The Russians themselves are very polite, very nice people. I mean, yeah, okay, they wear big hats, yes. So what? But when you see them in the city centre, they're very friendly, and yeah, they're very polite. And we have a big East European community in Plymouth, and yeah, we get on very well with them. We get on very well with them indeed. They're Russians, Moldovans,
To be
Latvians,
quite honest,
Lithuanians.
Michael, to be quite honest, in 1974, I was behind the Iron Curtain. We were the first Royal Naval ship allowed into Russia for 10 years. I'll tell you what, they actually are the best people in the world I have ever met.
Yeah, I mean, when we had
all around the world.
Yeah, well, when we had a big big NATO exercise some years ago, we had to put the Canadians at one end of the naval base and the Americans down the other. Now, the only ones we had any trouble with, believe it or not, was an American ship, and we caught their crew smuggling booze, cigarettes, and other things ashore. And it resulted in the what's called revenue and customs now. It was customs and excise. Then the police force I was with at the time and another police force raiding pubs and clubs in Plymouth, and they found they've been taking American booze, and that where duty hadn't been paid. Yeah, the ship was sent straight back to the United States. But it's a pity really, because people I know in America that I get in contact with on Skype, they're very nice people. They're just like us. Okay, they speak with an American accent, but at the end of the day, they're very much like very, very similar. Well, yeah, quite a few of them are descended from Brits. But I think it's bad that the American servicemen should give their fellow countrymen, they should let them down like that. Yeah, the other navies that were there, the Canadians, the Germans, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French, they were behaving themselves. It's just a pity, really, that this one ship, and it happened to be American, let everybody down.
It's a shame. Because
Well,
that was part of the job in the Royal Navy, was to fly the flag for Great Britain. We had to behave ourselves because we were like ambassadors for our country, each and every one of us.
But this was a big.
Our military is all being hollowed out now, Michael. I mean, this is all. I think this is all part of it to do with the European Union. Our industry is being hollowed out. Our military is being hollowed out, and that's all going to be put over now into this European.
You know who's behind that, don't you? That's common purpose.
Common purpose again.
Yeah, you see the Nimrods, the Nimrod aircraft, when they caught them destroying the Nimrod aircraft, those things were part and parcel of air sea rescue.
Right.
Those were used more for air sea rescue than anything. They're ideal for it.
Yeah. Well, this is what's going on. Deindustrialization, demilitarization of the UK. That is. All this sort of policies that we're getting now is just, and all the stuff from the EU is just basically, nobody's starting up businesses. People have just thought, well, we're not going to get anywhere starting up businesses under these sort of circumstances with all these directives in place. And of course, the thing about Brexit that annoyed me was the fact that she's taken all these EU directives, Theresa May, and she's saying we're just going to put them onto the British statute roll.
Hold on a minute, Joe. Because there's a British company called Alexander Dennis.
Right.
They make buses and coaches. Now, they are doing very, very well indeed. They've just sold a load of double-decker buses. They're Enviro, which you see in most towns and cities around the UK. They've just sold a load of those to the Swiss. They're also selling them to the Irish and other European cities. And they've even opened a factory in America. They're supplying to American and Canadian cities as well.
So we are actually producing something then in this country.
Alexander Dennis is, when Mayflower Engineering hit the buffers, down went Dennis firefighting vehicles, Dennis municipal vehicles, Plaxton's and Walter Alexander, and what now survives of it, Dennis Fire, they don't exist anymore. John Dennis, who is one of the Dennis family, he now builds the bodies onto the chassis. Is a leading supplier and designer of firefighting vehicles. Most brigades use John Dennis. Alexander Dennis. Dennis made some of the best bus chassis that were on the market, and Walter Alexander and Falkirk, they were coach builders. They built the bodies, so they put those two together, and they got the best of both worlds.
I suppose.
And what they're now doing is they're producing world class vehicles. They're being exported all over the globe. They're even exporting them to Australia and New Zealand. And the Americans seem to love them. I was watching a video on their website, and I think it was one of the big cities down in the southern part of the United States, and the chap who's in charge of the city's transportation department, he was saying we like these. He said the drivers like them, the passengers like them, the service crews and the mechanics like them. And this is an Enviro, which is a British built, a British design, British built with Cummins engines. Well, Cummins is an American company, so yeah, so they use Cummins in this country. Those are made at the factory.
I suppose what's helped with their export is the fact that the pound slumped after Brexit, and of course that means that
they've been doing that for years.
Better for our export market, isn't it?
They've been doing that for years, Jeff. They were exporting the first generation Enviro 500, which is a 6-wheel bus.
Right.
It'll take about 125 passengers, double decker. They've been exporting those for about the last 10-15 years. The second generation one, they're now exporting. They're now building those over in America and Canada now. They've opened factories over there specifically for the US market. They're doing very well over there. It's creating jobs for American and Canadian people.
Right.
And yeah, it is world beating. They're producing for the Asian Pacific market over there now.
Well, it's reassuring.
And they've got another factory somewhere in Malaya, I think, which produces specifically for countries like Hong Kong, China, things like that. But the Chinese, one thing I'll say for the Chinese, they are now making a big inroads into automotive engineering. They're exporting to this country and all over the world as well, especially King Long.
It's reassuring to know that we have got some industry left here, but it's not.
Well,
it's like it used to be. Our steel industry is gone. Our car manufacturing industry is gone. We haven't got any British built cars.
Right. Well,
no.
There was another firm. There's another firm that was part of British Lane called Charles Rowe. It became the workers pulled their redundancy payment together, and they started a company called Opter, which is now part of Ashok Leyland, which is an Indian company. However,
right,
Opter produces some very, very good vehicles, and they're exporting those all over Europe and to the others.
They don't run out of character. I'd like to
there we've got some music playing. Somebody's playing some music there.
Hold on, I'm trying to come up on mine all of a sudden.
Let's be certain. Capital and quick check lets you.
Sorry guys, just come on all of a sudden.
No, I think you got a few gremlins in the machinery there. By the sounds of it, Paul.
but I'll say this, Jeff. Although it doesn't get put about, but the Brits have always been excellent engineers. So the Germans.
Right.
Yes, some German companies have now got bases in this country. WAS. Now, if you've never heard of WAS, they build a lot of these paramedic ambulances for the National Health Service.
I've never heard of that.
I mean, Maggie Thatcher completely destroyed the firms that built those. Well, WS, but there's new firms starting up which have done very well, and they picked back up again. But where our engineering is scoring points is firms like Alexander Dennis and Opter. They're kind of leading the way. They're Van Hool, which is a Belgian company, they're kind of the top premier one in Europe and in America as well. But no, it's the British company Alexander Dennis and Opter who are sort of leading the way. So yes, it's slowly, the British engineering industry is slowly clawing its way back into the sort of the world stage, and it's doing very well.
That's excellent.
So Maggie, although she tried to destroy the British engineering industry, I think in a way the British engineering industry has kind of raised its middle finger to the Tories and gone, yeah, they sit on that and below that your double S.
Right. Well, it's reassuring to know that we're getting some industry back because it was hollowed out for a long time due to all the the stupid bureaucracy coming in from the EU, and we definitely need to get out of the European Union. That's a must. And I'm going to try and soften it up with this election now. They're going to try and say, well, we've weakened our negotiating position and all this rubbish. So they're going to use that as an excuse to make it a softer Brexit. Well, in my opinion, a softer Brexit just means no Brexit. For me, Brexit is leaving the single market, leaving the customs union, getting our old laws back, and getting rid of all these directives, all these EU directives and things like that, and getting the rule of law back with habeas corpus. And
we didn't need Brexit. All we had to do is evoke the blinking 1972 Communities Act.
Well, the thing with that is, Paul, is she's triggered Article 50, but Article 50 is a sort of two-way thing, whereby once you've triggered Article 50, it leaves 2 years for negotiations, and it means that you can actually go back into the European Union. Now, with the 1972 Communities Act, as far as I'm aware, once you've actually repealed the 1972 Communities Act, there is no going back. So that is what we'd like to see. That would be like saying, so in my mind, what they could have done is to just bypass the negotiations and left. Completely repealed the 1972 Communities Act, and started trading with other countries and what have you. And then if the European Union then wants to come back and say, well, we'd like to start doing these deals with you or those deals, then you have a stronger position. That is the way that I would have dealt with it personally. I would have just I would have repealed the 1972, torn up all the treaties, started trading with the rest of the world, and then let the European Union come back to you on our terms. See, that's the way I would have done it. But, you know, Theresa May's going to try. I mean, European Union has never been easy to negotiate with, as far as I can tell. They're pretty they don't compromise on anything. So I don't think
May has been going around saying, "Oh, I'm going to rip up human rights," and the thing is, she was told this by Keir Starmer, the last EPP. I mean, he's now a Labour MP. He is a very eminent criminal and also a very eminent human rights lawyer, and he told him. So did Dominic Grieve. I think David Cameron sacked him. Basically for saying what needed to be said. It's going to be more difficult for her to pull out of the European Convention on Human Rights and the Council of Europe than she thinks.
Actually, it's a separate entity altogether, isn't it?
It is a separate entity. But
the HR is from
what we have to do, Jeff, is we have to make damn sure she cannot make that decision herself.
Right.
And we must also stop this nonsense of putting an X on a voting paper. Has got to stop. If they're just rigging the vote, then it's not a secret ballot at all. It's basically because I know where I am. One of them, the security was very, very strict. There were problems with it this time, especially with the postal votes.
Yeah,
there are no serious questions being asked where I am. It's like kind of along the lines of what a bloody hell was going on. Oliver Culver lost his seat. Now, yes, he was going on about replacing the lion as the symbol of Britain with a hedgehog. There's a few inappropriate jokes going around about the hedgehog. What Oliver Culver and the hedgehog got in common. Well, they're both a pair of bricks, but that's neither here nor there. But the guy, I mean, I met the guy once, and he was trying to kid everybody that this problem with incapacity benefit was down to the Labour. No, it wasn't actually. That was down to one of the previous Tory governments who brought it in to fabricate the unemployment statistics. New Labour left them there for the same reason, and then they tried to make out, oh, look, we're the saviour. So it's all a load of lies, and they got called out. He didn't like it when I called him out, but I think a lot of people are kind of thought, right, well, we don't want him here anymore. We don't trust him. Out he goes.
Well, they've always manipulated unemployment statistics in various ways. I remember.
I mean, we've got.
They used to do government training schemes and things, which were very temporary, to say the least. And they used to, anybody that get on one of those, that would be one less on the unemployment statistics and things like that. But they're actually in training, so they weren't technically employed. So they've always done things like that, you know.
Oh well, Norman Fowler was the idiot who really dropped the Thatcher government in the proverbial. He was bragging about it on some political program, and he said, "Oh well, the youth employment scheme. It's just a make work scheme," and the presenter kind of just suddenly leapt on it. Are you saying you're wasting public money on these just to? And you could sort of Fowler kind of. You could see he realised he'd opened his mouth and said the wrong thing, and he was desperately trying to claw it back. Yeah, it was.
Well, they always try to make the figures look good because they got to look good in the public eyes if they're going to get voted back in. This is the thing, you see, is all to do with elections and
just that slip of the tongue did untold and incalculable damage to the Tories' credibility. It showed they were liars. It showed them to be not untrustworthy.
Yeah, they're all always up to dirty deeds. The old.
Yeah, I just saw that flash up on the screen. Yeah, that happened. That happened in one of the last ones. What happened was, the Royal Mail were told to bring the the postal votes to what was then the Civic Centre. They've had to move out because obviously it's been sold because it needed a lot of work done on it. And they were told to bring it to be counted over a period of days leading up to voting day.
Right.
And it got to about 2 days before the actual voting day, and they rang up Royal Mail. So where are they? Oh, they're in here in trolleys. Yes, well, we told you to bring them here.
Yeah, it's a bit crap.
So they said, right, and they said, oh, we'll bring them there. They said, no, you won't bring them on Thursday. You will bring them here within the next hour.
Fair play. Yeah,
oh yes, and they had them there. They had a fleet of these about 18-ton lorries with these bloody great trolleys called brutes in the back, full of postal bags with all these.
Honest, Michael, I think an awful lot of rigging does go on in various ways, not just postal votes, but they rub out votes as well, because of course they put pencils in the polling station.
This is why I said they've got to stop that. I'll tell you another thing that they've had at the last general election down here. The security was fairly tight because one of my relatives was involved in the counting and also some of the other bits. They were working for that department that dealt with that thing.
Right.
What was going on was they were checking them in, and they had these numbered seals on them. They had these plastic boxes, and they were putting these numbered seals on them, so they know exactly where each one was. Now, as they were going out, they were checking them out, and as they were coming back in, they checked the seal, check it with the sheet they had on them, and they were checking them back in. And it got to the point where they said, hang about, where's the one for that one, that one, that one, and that one?
Right.
They should have come in with the presiding officer, and there's the presiding officer there kind of strolling around. They said, where's the ballot box? Well, I don't know. And so they sent the police out, got all the key holders, and there it was. And there's some very serious questions asked about that as to what the hell was going on.
I think the funny thing is that it's still, a lot of it is still going on. I swear by it. They reckon that the Lisbon Treaty vote was rigged to a lot of people think it is rigged to the tune of about 40%. And for Brexit, well, I was seeing polls that were indicating about 80% of people were voting Leave, and about 15% were voting Remain, and about 5% were undecided. So if that's the case, and we ended up with a 52-48, I mean, whatever we do now to get a vote to go through any way we want, we got to have a complete landslide to get anything to work in this sort of system, if they are rigging them to that sort of extent.
Well, they did this with the Scottish devolution vote, Jeff. There is now video evidence of the counters slipping them into bags underneath the table, and there were bags of them found. So I mean, yeah, and this happened all over the place. I mean, there was a big hoo-ha with proxy votes down in Cornwall some years ago. What they were doing is Tory party activists were going around offering to go down to the polling station with the proxy votes, and instead of voting for who the voter asked for, they were putting the Tory party candidate. And once this got out, they had to rerun 2 of them because of the way it was done, and that was the end of the proxy votes. They banned proxy votes after that.
What exactly is a proxy vote? Is where somebody votes on behalf of somebody else, isn't it?
Basically, someone has not got a postal vote, and they can't get down to the polling station, so somebody goes down in their place,
right,
and votes for them, and they take down a polling card as a proxy. They've tightened that. I mean, after that fiasco, and the fact they had to rerun two votes in 2 constituencies, they banned proxy votes altogether now. You can only do postal votes or in-person votes. There was one where they shut a lot of people out of polling stations at 10 o'clock.
I think they get rid of the postal votes next as well, to be honest. What I've seen.
Well, it would just be ballot rigging again. It would just be another form of ballot rigging.
They was.
But what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to. Well, they have done in some countries where they vote over a number of days rather than on one day. Because there's no way you're going to get something like about 60 million people being able to get to the polling station just on one day between about 7 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night. It's not possible.
Yes.
So you're probably going to have a vote over about 2 or 3, stretch it over about 2 or 3 days to make sure you get as wide a vote as possible. Because if you keep getting the same fiasco as we've been getting in recent years, I think in a minute people are just going to say, right, enough's enough. We've had enough of this. If we can't do this nationally, we need to do it locally. We need to go back to local sort of mini parliaments. If we can't trust the central government, then we can't trust them.
I think they had a problem in America as well, was similar, but they got electronic
with Jeb Bush and that. Yeah, I can remember that. Yeah.
Counting machines or something, and they showed how they could rig the counting machines or something. So, I mean, this sort of stuff does go on, but anyway, we've got the back on the onto the subject of elections. We've ended up with this situation. How do you feel that it's going to go with Brexit now? Do you think their so-called negotiating hand has been weakened by all this this hung parliament and that, or do you think Corbyn will make a play for? Apparently, Corbyn's going to make a play for the leadership. He's called Theresa May to stand down again or something.
Well, she hasn't been elected as the people have not elected her as their prime minister. So what makes her think she could just she and her bunch of hooray Henrys can appoint themselves? No, she has. They've got to stop this. We're getting fed up of it.
Yeah.
People are getting fed up with the Tories just doing their usual. Oh, we're the natural party of government. No, you're the natural bunch of it. The natural party of bloody idiots.
We
don't want you anywhere near bloody Westminster because you're incompetent, you're corrupt, and we don't want you anymore.
But I mean, regardless of the point that the fact that both parties, Labour and Tory, both ended up with a minority. Nobody had a complete majority. She did actually have still most of the seat out of the two of them. I mean, she had 318 seats, wasn't it, the Tories? So, so I suppose she does get first crack at the whip, so to speak.
With the DUP, I have seen a number of worries that have been voiced. The DUP are very anti-abortion and anti-this and that. Very, you can see where Catholic influence is creeping in.
Anti-homosexual, anti-abortion.
They're
also creationists as well, so they're against. They think the world was only created 4,000 years ago, and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, they reckon mankind is a lot older than that.
Yeah, sounds like our Republicans.
Oh, they're like that, are they?
Right.
Yeah,
well,
but the thing is, the DUP though, they're very, to my mind, they're very dangerous with this. I mean, it's kind of almost like Roman Catholics. It's like sort of, oh, we don't agree on abortion, and we don't agree with this, and we don't agree with that. And you're thinking, hold on a minute, what the hell are you lot going on about?
I know they formed. I know the Tories have formed a coalition with the Democratic Unionist Party. I think that's what they're called. But it's not supposed to be a thing called a formal coalition. Now I don't know quite what that means. It might be that they're just sat in the background and they've just supported Theresa May in forming a government, but might not be actually taking part in any of the not like the coalition we had with David Cameron and Nick Clegg. It sounds like it's a different sort of arrangement that they've got by all accounts.
Hope so.
Well, the Conservatives can still go ahead and just do what they like.
Well, it does make me wonder if there's if not very far down the road, there's going to be another election.
Well, yeah.
This is the thing. Are they in, say, a few months' time? Are we all going to be going to the polls again? And only this time we'll say, right, we're getting sick and tired of the corruption, and yeah, we don't have fiasco like we had the last time.
Well, I think a lot of voters of previous non-voters have decided to. I think there's been an increase of about 3 million voters this time round. And they reckon it's a lot of young people getting involved that have decided to get behind Corbyn. So, whereas a lot of the older voters tend to be more on the right wing and towards the Tory party. So it's only a matter of time if things will change or not, and more people. I think more people will probably go over to Corbyn in time. His manifesto is better. Of course, whether, like I was saying to my friend Stab there the other day, that of course is all good and well saying we can do this and we can do that and we'll give you this and we'll give you that, but at the end of the day, there's no actual contract that they have to agree on for their manifesto. So there's nothing to hold them to that. So they could say they're going to do this and do that and get in power and do absolutely nothing. This is the problem.
What is surprising me, though, Jeff, is that the younger generation that's coming on now, including my niece, they're very, very switched on. They know exactly what's going on, and they know it can go on like that. They know push is going to come and shove's going to come. I'm surprised how well informed they are. They're wide awake. I mean, they're not sheeple. They're like the wolves. They're like the wolves who are after the Mavericks.
Right.
I think these, to be honest with you, I think these malfeasance want to be very, very careful, because this younger generation that's kind of coming in now, kind of the ones who are kind of 16 and onwards,
They'll probably be happy.
They're the ones that are going to be instrumental in bringing them down. I think it can be a lot sooner than a lot of us think.
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important for us as the older generation, so to speak, is to pass on the information to the younger generation about what things were like, in the past.
We can do that, but the thing is, they're very, very switched on as to what's going on. All these false flag incidents. They're not. I mean, you ask quite a few people of my niece's generation, and they're going, "Oh, that. Oh, God, that's not that pantomime." One called it a pantomime. One called it ham acting. I said, "Oh, you mean it's got more ham than a deli counter at Sainsbury's?" They said, "Yeah, that's about it." I mean, the Charlie Hebdo one was where they started making the stupid mistakes, like trying to sort of, the guy in black coming along with an AK-47 trying to shoot it one-handed.
Yeah.
Now I know somebody who was with the army in Northern Ireland who used one of those.
Shot up in the air.
He said you can't shoot one of those one-handed. He said if you do, it'll rip your arm out of its socket.
Yeah.
So the recoil on those is terrific.
Yeah.
And he said, as for the ammo, he said, you point that at somebody's head at point blank range. He said 7.62 mil ammo. He said, "You won't be much left of your bloody head after it."
I remember the first.
So he said, so that is when these false flag incidents started to look exactly what they are. A rookie ham acting.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable. I was just going to say, actually, when you're talking about the recoil on the gun, first time I ever pulled the trigger on a 12-bore shotgun, I went ass over tit, because he told me to put the gun properly into the butt of the gun into my shoulder nice and firmly. But he didn't tell me how to stand properly. He didn't say put one foot in front. In front of the other. So naturally, I just stood with my feet together, pulled the trigger, and I went ass over tit about 6 yards back.
Yes, you suddenly find that your backside is sort of scraping along the ground with sparks flying everywhere. And you get this rather warm feeling around your nether regions for the Brexit burns.
Our 12 gauge fires the same way over here.
Yeah. The ones I used to, the guns we used to use in the police, it was an old Brown, and these Glocks now, my God, those things were awful to bloody shoot. Because being left-handed, trying to shoot one of those, it would pull to one side. So I was given a roll for PPK with them when they were still making them. That was much better. Smaller gun, but it was specifically made by Walther, which was a German company, for the police.
More reliable.
PPK.
That was the one James
Yeah,
Bond
nice
used,
gun.
wasn't it? A Walter PPK.
Yeah, it was a nice gun actually.
Right.
I found I could get more shots on target when I did him with 6 monthly requalification than I did with a Browning. Browning was a Canadian, I think it was Canadian or I can't remember which, but it had an awful kick and it would pull to one side. But Walther was much easier. It was a much better gun altogether. The engineering in it, the recoil, and you could use it with either hand, whether you were left-handed or right-handed. But the Browning was a right-handed gun, and it had a terrific pull.
The Tommy guns, when we was in the shooting range, they used to go up in the air.
Oh, yeah. See, the police now they use the Heckler. They use the Heckler and Koch MP series. I think the Met use the and most of the county forces use the MP5. And one of my old forces, the Ministry of Defence Police, they use an MP7, and much better gun. It's made by Heckler and Koch, but apparently it is a much better gun. The MP5 is a very small, sort of lightweight carbine, but the MP7 is a much better gun altogether. It's a carbine, but much better.
Right, listen, I'm going to go and get a cup of tea a minute. I'll leave you guys to carry on chatting about the election and what have you, and I'll be back.
Well, I'm going to get some liquid refreshment as well.
I had a question.
My throat's going to get very, very dry.
I had a question for you guys. I did read that the Labor Party over there wants to reopen the coal mines, and of course that's similar to what Trump is wanting to do in states where I'm from, where coal production has been limited, and what jobs are available. What some of the jobs that he's kind of reinvigorated. He removed the union pay and the union status. So I'm just wondering about that. How is labor really affected by this labor win?
Well, Gina, I don't know anything about Labour opening up the coal miners. It sounds contradictory to me if they are.
Well, what's so funny? This was U.S. media reporting it, and so of course they're so good at propaganda. You're probably getting a bit confused there with the different parties. Labour, it would probably be the Conservatives that you were talking about that are still in power. Labour haven't won; they didn't win. Conservatives still have the majority. Oh, yeah.
The majority of it. Yeah. So,
no, I mean, what did the article was implying was that it would give Labor leverage to perhaps do more for your elderly. Was it Theresa May that had some kind of legislation that would tax old folks for getting dementia or something like that? Is what they said over here.
I'm not sure. Perhaps Paul knows a bit more about that because I'm not 100% sure about the article. Perhaps you could.
I should probably link you some American press stories that we read about your list.
I'm not sure. Yeah, have you? Yeah, but I don't know, Paul. Have you heard anything about Labour saying if they get in power that they'll open the coal mines up? That doesn't sound.
I can't really see that feasible because they've been shut now for what, nearly 20 years or so.
Yeah, I haven't pretty much dug all your coal. It's kind of like West Virginia. If they reopen the coal mines, it would be what they call that surface mining, because they pretty much dug out the mountains. I mean, there's not much left.
I mean, there is still plenty of coal reserves in this country, but the mines have been shut for so long now, it's going to cost a heck of a lot to reshore them up and everything.
I haven't heard him say that.
No, I haven't heard nothing about that, actually, not this end.
Yeah. This is why grandfather taught me when I was a young girl, teenager, you just can't really believe anything in the press, anything on the news. anything.
Well, they should never have shut them in the first place, should they, Stuff?
No, they shouldn't have done. But then, you know, that was all part of the privatisation of everything, and also the coal miners' dispute with Margaret Thatcher in the late 70s, early 80s, to get rid of the union's power, basically.
That was all part of the EU hollowing us out again, though.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Because what the EU wanted, really, because then they could sell us expensive coal from wherever they like. Then you become dependent. So like the gas and the end, it's almost like all the utilities. I mean, all the water companies are foreign owned now, the majority of them.
So therefore, that makes us have to bow to them. That is what they wanted.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Paul, this is the big scam of privatisation, because it's not really privatisation that Margaret Thatcher actually passed. What they done was they gave licences to companies so they could issue credit. All these companies are middlemen that issue credit to the customers and take it off the national. British Gas is British Gas. It's not central. They're all private, individual, if you like, brokers, which can issue credit, right? So they sit in the middle. It's still the people's utilities. Nothing has changed, only in name. But all it is, between, say, British Gas and your gas bill, is a license being sold to these utility companies that are not really utility companies. They don't own the gas. They don't own. Nobody can own any of this stuff. It's just an in-between middleman who can issue credit by issuing numbers out of thin air, just like banks, and then charging you. So that's all they are. There's no such thing as these small companies in between that all of your bills, the utility companies, people in for all their utilities, is a scam. They're just a middleman that issues credit. That's all.
We're just paying the shareholders, aren't we?
Yeah, that's how it is. You're just paying the shareholder, and the middleman runs the meter. He just.
I'd like to see where my share is.
These are the ones that. Hang on, Nicky. Well, yeah, that's another thing. Are all these young people going to go down the coal mine, or is it going to be all automated? I don't know. That's another question about it, I suppose. But anyway, my partner asked that one. But that's all it is.
Well, what they're doing in America.
The meter companies are a separate company, Gina. They're nothing to do with British Gas. There's some guy that charges you for the meter usage, and then they just slap their expenses on top of it. So, most of your bill isn't for themselves, gas, electric bill. It's what the middleman slaps on, because he's been allowed to issue debt for you.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And America, I would think, is no different.
It's no different. Same old shit at the same old station.
Yeah, they're now trying to bring in these smart meters, or as I call them, taxi meters. I mean, I've had the number of calls I've had from my provider, and I dared them to. I said, "Don't you dare!" And they admitted one day that these meters have a 4G SIM card in them. I said, "Well, if you put that," if you put one of those in my house, I said, "You will do me great critical harm." I said, "I've got a critical condition that means I'm hypersensitive to microwave frequencies."
Michael, I think your audio's gone down a bit, Michael. I don't know what's going on exactly. Is anybody else hearing Michael okay? I'm having problems.
No, it's really garbled and broken up.
Oh, is it? How about that?
Oh, that's clearer.
Yeah, it's probably what it was. I wasn't near enough to the microphone. No, what it is, these taxi meters they try to put in your house, calling them smart meters. Oh, they're anything but smart. They're actually quite dangerous. I know.
Mhm.
I've seen reports in America. Some of them have exploded or short-circuiting cause fires, but they work on a Ford. In these countries, they, I think it's only from Siemens, they admitted that they work on a 4G SIM card. Now, with what I'm going to see a consultant about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it makes you very hypersensitive to microwave frequencies. It causes you. It's not.
It actually thins your blood out.
No, it doesn't. What it does is it makes it. Ehlers-Danlos involves your connective tissue, but what it also does, it can cause your muscles to go into spasm if you're exposed to certain frequencies. It feels like somebody is kicking you in the head. They said, "Oh, we're going to pop one in." I said, "No, you won't." I said, "You make me ill." I said, "I'll still the butts off you." And they said, "Well, you can't stop." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Yes, I can." One, there's no law to say you can put it in there. And secondly, I said, if you're causing me harm, I can have you under health and safety law. And they suddenly realised that, oh God, here's somebody who knows what they're talking about. We need to be careful. And now what they've done, I'll give them credit where it's due. They have put it on my account record. Do not offer a smart meter to this customer for medical reasons.
Yeah, Michael, we've still got problems with your audio this way. It's very broken up, like your mic's not plugged in properly. Might pay to unplug your mic and plug it back in, see if that makes a difference.
I'll have a look.
But yeah, getting back to what you were saying about smart meters and that, you're not actually obliged to accept smart meters in this country. As long as you send them a thing in advance saying to your utility supplier saying that you don't consent to the installation of a smart meter, they can't force you to have one in this country, which is one good thing. You're quite right about the fires that they've caused and things in some places as well. So I know they're a bit of a hazard as such.
I got a knock on my door one day out of the blue, and the guy said, "I've come to fit your new meter." I said, "No, you're not." He said, "Oh, I better reword that." I said, "You better reword it," meaning you're not going to fit a new meter. And he said, I've been sent to fit a new meter. I said, "Then well, you're not going to fit a new meter in my house." He said, "Oh, you better contact the office." I said, "No, they better contact me."
That's fair enough. I think, ultimately they have to get consent from you. If you consent to it fully, then, that's no problem as well. If that's what you want, if you want a smart meter. Personally, I wouldn't want one. And I've already informed my utility company as such that I won't be accepting any.
The only trouble is that if you accept it and have it in your house and you move, that meter is in that house, and the person that moves into the house can't do anything about it.
This is the problem. It's a bit like going on the water meter. Some people prefer to be on the general rate. Some people prefer to be on the meter. Once you've had a water meter fitted, it stays there, as far as I'm aware. I think you can actually request for it to be put back. I'm not sure whether you can request to have it put back as to go on the standard rates for water. But yeah, I think the thing to do is to tell them beforehand that you don't want it. This is the thing. Gradually they're going to take over, aren't they? This is the problem.
Yeah, but if everybody says no, they can't take over.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I think people have got to basically stand up for themselves and say no to it all.
They're doing this in Ireland, and now the Irish government have had to back down, and they've had to say, well, the people they tried to do it by force, but now they're saying no, we're not going to have them. You're not going to force it on us. So they've had to stop. They're taking them out.
Right. Well, there's a lot of things like this, that we've got to stand up to stop it all going through. One thing I don't like is what they're doing with the internet. They've already got the, I can't remember what it's called, data something act or something. No, not data protection. no, not Data Protection Act. It's the Internet something Act. I can't remember what it's called now. They've got all these things to do with snooping on us now with the internet as well.
The Internet Investigations Act.
Investigatory Powers Act.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. And of course, that's going to be the next big thing if Theresa May gets her own way, is to introduce more restrictions on internet and you know, and this sort of thing, which is going to affect our freedom to be able to put out information and share information with people, and this is all part of their agenda to silence us. You know, and this is one thing we're going to have to be very, very careful with, and we're going to have to.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm not sure if you're aware of a certain Mr. Khan of London has been given the go-ahead to set up a whole big department to operate against hate speech against a particular religion, and also just hate speech in general. And that's a certain Sadiq Khan, and he's setting up a department. He will be authorized to track down everybody who utters any hate speech and have them prosecuted. Don't know if you know of that one, do you, Jeff?
I have heard something about it. I've also heard about something whereby anybody does certain things on it. What was it? What was it I read earlier? Oh, blimey. Something to do with anything that causes offence on the internet can be considered. Well, it will be coming under the hate crime or hate speech laws or something like that, where they're going to be able to clamp down on people for even causing minor, you know, even relatively minor offences.
Well, the trouble is with that is that it just takes one person to say, "Oh, I'm offended by that," and you can be done for it just through them saying they're offended by it.
Trouble is, Paul,
It's going to be done through Zuckerberg. He's actually got it in place on Facebook, where if somebody reports you for hate speech, they must carry out with the inquiry. They'll give it to Sadiq Khan's department in London and pass it all through, and then you'll be investigated. Then you will go online to what they call an administrative court online and convict yourself and pay the fine. There you go.
Yeah, that's unlawful, unfortunately. If they try to push it through, it will be unlawful.
Oh, absolutely, Michael. But then
that law is not taken. Although they put, this is compatible with ECHR. No, it's not. And they're trying to get derogations. They have not done the derogations properly because they're trying to claim. Oh,
I know, but you know.
Yeah,
but you know them. You know them in procedure. You know, look at the CPS, for instance.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, they've done that ever since they came in.
Let's not go there, Michael. Eh?
I mean, this is the ridiculous thing. Even on Facebook now, I mean, I've just received. I've got a month post ban on Facebook that I've got about another 3 weeks left of, just for saying that I think what needs to be done about this terrorist or this not jihadism, the Muslim situation, and that to remove non-UK Muslims from the country and all that, and I was given a month ban for that, and that's, to me, not racist. That's dealing with the problem. I'm looking at the problem as being that if we've got excessive amounts of non-British born Muslims in the country, that's going to increase the risk of potential terrorist attacks, and by saying that, I got a month ban.
No, I find the way around
that comes under Islamophobia, you see, and they're going to term that as hate speech. So there you go.
Maybe so, but at the end of the day, I mean, I wasn't being racist. I was just, I was just airing an opinion that I think that we need to limit the risk of this sort of thing going on. And it wasn't it wasn't an attempt to be Islamophobic or racist or anything like that. And it's got to the point now where it's so ridiculous that you can't say anything. You even say that it seems like you're getting to the point where you even say the word Muslim, or you say the word Islam or anything like that, straight away, racist. That's the first thing they say. And this is what actually happened to me in another group. I got banned from a group that I was in, just for putting a picture up that I made, saying about I call on the UK government to remove non-British born Muslims, and ones that are on the watch list and things like this, and straight away a ban.
What was you going to say, Michael?
It's actually something that I based it. It is based with law. It's backed by law. When these so-called what was happening is you're getting a lot of so-called refugees coming in from Syria that aren't actually genuine refugees. Now, there is the rule under the UN Convention on refugees that if you are fleeing from a country where there is armed conflict, you are supposed to report to the first safe country you come to. You don't just go straight across over France and go straight to the UK. You're not allowed to do that. Now, the host country who is providing you with refuge, okay, they will look after you until the armed conflict ceases in your country. Once that armed conflict has ceased, you have to go back. That's a condition of it. Now, whilst you're in the host country, you start kicking off and you start causing harm or anything like that to the indigenous population, then that host country is perfectly within their rights to deport you to another safe country. If another safe country will take you,
well, surely
back to where you came from, and that's enshrined in international law. Now,
surely if they've been put on a watch list, they must have been put on the watch list for a reason. So therefore, they must have been kicking off or doing something wrong to be put on the watch.
See, the thing is, in some parts of the UK, you start complaining about the way some these Islamists are carrying on. Now, there's been a massive sort of hoo-ha in Luton. I mean, there's videos on YouTube of these idiots going, "Get out of our country." You feel like grabbing hold of them and saying, "Right, next plane out, you're on it, pal."
Yeah, well, that is a bit much doing that. I mean,
well, I think we need to do whatever's necessary to secure our country, but look at things from the point of view that if they're here illegally or whatever, then you've got a right to remove them from the country and deport them. So if they're not a British citizen or they're not on holiday or whatever, and they're just here,
Crikey, yes, he lives out in
British born, you've got the right to remove them, because technically they're, well, not even a guest. They're not even a guest in your country, are they? So that's the way I see it. It's like, a lot of people say, oh, the lefties get a little bit soft on it all and say, oh, well, they should be allowed to do this and they should be allowed to do that and blah blah. Well, no, not if they're not British citizens. If they're not British citizens, whether they're born here or not, if they're not British citizens, then they're still a guest in this country. Let's not forget that. I mean, would you invite them into your home to live?
That's what I was just about to say. Let the lefties let them just walk in their house then.
Exactly. That's
There's a lot of virtual signalling going on, isn't there, by a lot of these people that say, "Leave them alone, you racist bastard," whatever. Well, listen, you put them up there, but they'll run a mile. The trouble is with all that at Luton. I was born in Luton, Michael, so I know Luton quite well, and there's no doubt that the Muslim population is, if that's what they want to call themselves, or Asians or Pakistanis, whatever. I mean, I don't look on race as a religion. This whole racist slur thing it's been completely debunked. You know, it's like if people treat people as a different species. It's bloody ridiculous. Okay. And I tell you what, the police, Michael should know this. He's an ex-police constable, not a police man, a police constable. You know, the police have actually strangled themselves and destroyed themselves and gave Theresa May more than enough armor, allowed them to get completely swept away with political correctness. And the police force, there's no doubt about it, do come out, they'll do anything, they'll put you in prison rather than then be slandered with the racism tag. And I'm afraid police constables do not exist anymore. They've not existed for quite a long time because they don't know what their oath is. They haven't a clue what it means to protect the people, not a clue. And I'm afraid, you know, a lot of constables and ex-constables and specials that have been long retired now know this. And I think they're embarrassed, absolutely embarrassed with the whole policing force and the so-called commissioners, which are all corrupt to pieces. So what they've done is they've built their own funeral pyre, and they've allowed Theresa May and all these other politicians to literally destroy the police force and bring their numbers down to being happy.
I think,
you know, so that's what's happened. And this whole racism tag has destroyed them with political correctness from the inside out.
I think it's a mixture of the two, actually, Stav, because it's actually the laws as well that what they've done is subverted it with the EU. Basically, what they've done is to take away our sovereignty. They've said basically common law takes a backseat. It doesn't take primacy anymore, and that we've now fall under corpus juris, where we were under habeas corpus. We were innocent until proven guilty. Now we've got corpus juris, which makes us guilty until we can prove our innocence. So they've sort of switched it all around. And
well, yeah, I know what you're saying, but I don't agree with that. When you say we, that's not me. I stand under common law. It's the bedrock. It's the underpinning of our law. Okay, I don't. If a policeman comes to me, he better have some damn good evidence, or he better have some tangible evidence that he's going to arrest me, because I'm not going to allow him to arrest me, because this is what's happened with political correctness. You know, people don't know the law. They don't know their common law. They don't know that statutory rules are absolutely rubbish and worthless without the underpinning of the rule of law, common law. Now, I'm sure, now if Michael wanted to disagree with that, I can't see how he can, but I think he knows where I'm coming from.
I mean, the thing to do is to stand up for your rights, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that, you know, that you would resist arrest or anything, because if you do that, you get in trouble for resisting arrest. So I would protest.
They can only arrest you if they have tangible evidence that you've committed a crime or you're about to commit a crime. First and foremost, you have to know what a crime is. If the policemen don't know, I'll certainly put him straight about that.
Absolutely, and that's all about standing up for your rights. But look, if they're going to arrest you, and they said that that's what they're going to do, then protest, assert yourself clearly, but don't put up a struggle or try and fight back. It's the worst thing you can do is to fight back or put up a struggle. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. If they're going to bang the cuffs on you, they're going to bang the cuffs on you. If they're going to take you down the cells, they're going to take you down the cells. There's no point in fighting it. What I would say is just assert yourself clearly, make your point, tell them why you think they're wrong, and blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't go down the road of resisting arrest at all. That's probably the worst thing you can do, because it's just going to...
Listen, have you heard of duress?
Yeah, duress. We have
yeah.
in America. We're innocent until proven guilty. It's the same thing over here.
Yeah, that's the thing to do, is to just protest under duress. Say, well, I'm protesting under duress. I don't agree with what you're doing for blah, blah, blah reasons, and assert your reasons clearly to the point. And if they're going to arrest you, then they're going to arrest you. So there's no point in fighting it, or, you know, fight or any resistance. Just say to them, I'm not going to put up any resistance, except for I, you know, verbally, I'm going to...
They have to have factual or at least tangible evidence. if they've got tangible evidence that somebody down the road, they've got a witness that somebody down the road pointed me out because an old girl got mugged and they gave the description as me, then I'll gladly go down to their place of business and clear it up because I want them to go and catch the real criminal.
Well, they got to have reasonable suspicion. That's the thing they usually say, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what they.
Well, tangible evidence. They've got to have evidence that that you've committed the crime. Somebody's seen you. You whatever. At the end of the day, that's how common law is. That's about criminals and crime and committing crimes. You cannot commit a crime. There's no such thing, right? Unless you consent. You know this, of a victimless crime. There is no such thing. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be. Somebody's asked to have suffered a loss or injury or harm to for somebody to be a victim of crime. So that's the way I see it as well. But they've made they've made certain things criminal offences when they shouldn't be criminal offences. For example, non-payment of council tax, they consider that a criminal offence, which it isn't technically. And things like TV licence non-payment, they call that a criminal offence, and things like this. It's ridiculous. They've gone over the top.
You come back to the whole topic of what it started off to, like election. If you're going to go and vote for Jeremy Corbyn because you think his policies are quite good, then you're accepting to pay tax. You're accepting to go along with all these things, right? Yep. Because you expect everybody else to pay them because Jeremy's policies he's a good guy. So if you go along voting with all this, you've got to expect to pay all these taxes. You've got to expect to do exactly what they say because you voted them as a representative to carry out their work, how they deem is right and how they think it's right. So if you consent to it by voting, you're going to have to go and listen, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's right or wrong, it makes no damn bloody difference. If you consent to vote these people in, you've got to accept it.
In a way, it's worse than that, Bab. It's worse than that because if you vote, not only are you asking them or giving them to consent to govern you, you're actually giving them to consent to govern others as well. So you're imposing your will on other people if you choose to vote. That's why I don't vote, because I think, well, it doesn't affect me. It's mob rule. It's 51% or more against 49% or less of the voters. Basically, it's the 51% or more telling the 49% or less how you want them to live their lives. So it's imposing your will on other people against their will. So that's the way I look at it. So it's even worse,
Yeah, I agree. I peacefully non-comply by not voting. I have in no way, I'm in no way able to be duplicitous in this governmental arrangement that they have right now. I just can't participate in it.
I think a lot of it could be voluntary, Gina, like taxation, for example. Taxation in its essence is theft because they use coercion and the force of the police and prison and putting you in a cage and kidnapping you. They use that to enforce tax payments. Well, if it's against your will and it's not consented on, it's theft in technical terms. So there should be set up some sort of voluntary arrangement. If people want to pay, they can pay, and if they don't, they shouldn't be forced to. It's as simple as that.
They use argumentum ad baculum instead.
You what, Paul?
They use argumentum ad baculum.
Yeah,
the stick.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not quite ruled by the stick, but it is basically. Yeah, it's another word for it. That's you do as I tell you, otherwise I'll hit you with a stick.
Yeah, but the strange thing is that the Tax Act, is an act of Parliament. It's not common law. It's an act of Parliament. So if it's a statute, and the statute is defined as a legislative rule of society, given the force of law by the consent of the governed, then you should have the right to say, no thanks, I don't consent. I'm not going to be paying tax today.
That's right. Well, there's no such thing. I think somebody said it. I can't remember where I got it from. It's just stuck in my head. I think it came from a 17th century barrister or High Court judge, and they said there's no such thing as a bad law because a bad law is no law at all.
Right.
There's a lot of no laws at all, then, isn't there?
No, there's law and there's legislation, isn't there? And that's where most people get confused. There's a big difference between lawful and legal.
Well, yeah, legal legislation, legislators. What is legislators who bring the legislation to the table and gets put through and into a statutory act? The legislator is just a group of old fuddy-duddy people or young people, megalomaniacs, control freaks who think up a new rule to the system, like, I don't know, snotty nose tax or whatever, and they put it amongst themselves over a pint of beer in a smoky little room somewhere, and they give it to a member of parliament, say, there's one to pass, and then they put it through the procedure, the green paper, the white paper, the green paper, whatever it is, and then go through that. It's just opinion.
Yeah.
It's opinion.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
all.
exactly. But I like the way John Harris described it, is if you want to come up with a statute, for example, say speeding fines or whatever, you put it through different people, and then you go to a bank and say, would you finance me to put up all these speed cameras or something, and they'll say, we'll do that on a return of blah 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 revenue or whatever, and then it gets passed through and given royal assent, and it's all about profit. So, you know, it's all about profit at the end of the day. It's all commercial. That's exactly
Well, it's powerful monetary lobbying, bribery. It's, you know, we need this to pass through. Can you put it into a statute? What, it's going to cost you a few million? Yeah, okay, give it to the boys. Sort it out with the 685 compliances or whoever you want to call accomplices called MPs in Parliament. By the way, in the City of London with no reverse liability because it's not even a democracy. That's the whole falsehood of the whole system. Your Parliament or People's Parliament is in a place that is undemocratic. The City of London Corporation is a borough which is not elected by the public. So there we are.
We are
Private club in the middle of London. Yes.
We are a defunct democracy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So, but of course, you see, the other thing is a lot of people ought to just entertain the thought, I think. You know, the UK and the people need the EU, we'll go bankrupt. No, it's the other way around. City of London. The Americans need the City of London. China needs the City of London. Russia needs the City of London. The oligarchs, all of them need the City of London.
Well, with any sort of system of centralisation, the ones right in the centre are the ones that need the biggest handout. That's the way it works.
Yeah. Yes, there was a cryptocurrency that came out. Well, it's not a cryptocurrency. It's a centralised digital currency. It's number 3 in the, which is quite funny, but most people can see it and know what they're on about. In the cryptocurrency market at the moment, it's called Ripple. Yeah, if you go on the Ripple website, you will see that it's just a centralized digital currency. A lot of people will call it the mark of the beast, cashless society through digital currency, of course, and I would go along with that, because all it is issued by the Bank of England, and the Bank of England is right in the middle, and you've got a nice little graph and all these things pinging around the world. Oh, it saves us loads of money because we haven't got to go through exchanges, you know, different currencies and exchange rates, and it doesn't cost us a penny.
It's like anybody muscling in on their action. That's the thing. It's like, why can't we deal with drugs?
Yeah, well, the thing is, they know full well they cannot buy the cryptocurrency market because it's decentralized. It is no corporation. It has no CEO. It can neither be owned. So they're trying to infiltrate their own digital currency within it and take it over because it's decentralized. You see?
It's like everything, Stav. If you wanted to deal in heroin, for example, or opium, they would want you doing that because you'd be cutting in on their action. NATO NATO's the biggest opium blooming dealer in the world, as far as I'm aware, because they've been
If it wasn't for
Afghanistan, and
it's all dirty money. If it wasn't for the dirty black market of the world would cease to go round. It's all dirty.
exactly, mate.
And that's why they need a capital, financial capital to London, so they can clean it all at the trillions and trillions of dollars every day.
They want it to be a capital so they can get the capital.
Yeah, all the EU people can't stand the thought. If it was for, if it wasn't a game, if it wasn't a game with the EU and the City of London, if it wasn't a game and the City of London was saying, we've got to cut these technocrats out, they're getting too big for themselves, just cut them out of the financial chain and they would die overnight, the EU, literally collapse. Right? But we know that ain't the game. They're all in this game. People think, oh, you know, it's the British people, the Brexit. It's a load of rubbish. It's all a load of rubbish, guys. It's all rubbish.
The biggest criminals in the country, right? You've got those that do the people that control the money laundering are the ones that are doing the biggest money laundering, yeah? And then you've got the arms dealing as well. Now, if you and me traded in weapons, we're not even allowed to own a weapon without a license, let alone trade in them. And yet they think they've given themselves the God-given right to trade in arms all over the world. And then we end up fighting with the countries that we've sold the bloody arms to. And then we end up with all the refugees coming over here. You know, it's total madness. It's absolute madness.
To me.
You what? Sorry.
It sounds like the Rothschilds to me.
Yeah, they're probably,
reap the benefits.
yeah, they're probably in the background pulling the strings of the politicians and that, like they do. I mean, they're well known for funding both sides of wars, for example. You know.
Well, I saw a program on RT one day, and it had a guy called Buick, and he's a city financer, gets on Bloomberg and does his talk. The guy with glasses, let's be very clever, now Citibank, the business corporation, £60,000 million a day, and this is a good buy, and all this crap you see on Bloomberg. And anyway, it's a program on RT, and it was a German guy, and he says, how ridiculous, you know, about the EU, because I was talking about the EU and whatever and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a democracy in the middle of London. The financial UK, if you want to call it that, a democracy. So you could never be a member of the EU. What a load of claptrap about you're going to move to the EU and all this business or whatever. It's all a load of old baloney. But of course, you know, a lot of people know this, and yet for some reason it's like they default to this back to the old ways. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen it, Paul, maybe you've seen it, Jeff, I think you have, but even some of the alternative media before this election was pretty much saying, you got to vote Corbyn, you got to vote Corbyn, and I'm going, what is this bloody nonsense?
Well, Theresa May was telling us it's a two-horse race. She was saying there's only two choices, and that's Tory and Labour. Well, that's influencing voters' decisions. You shouldn't be saying that. She shouldn't be saying that. That's effectively saying you've got to vote strategically. You either vote for us or you vote to get us out, but don't vote for anybody else. That's what she's saying, effectively. It's wrong.
Whereas UK Colin was saying vote for anybody but the Conservatives.
Thing is, Jeff, she's speaking from a place that's not even a democracy and can never be a member of the EU.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, what is London as well? London, City of London is an independent state, so that's a foreign power. So we're run by two foreign powers. One is the City of London, and the other one's the European Union. We haven't got a government. You haven't got a government in England.
Yeah,
don't
you, Staff? You have a remembrance that sits in the Houses of Parliament. Check everything that's
right.
Going through. It's from the City of London.
That's right. He's the real Lord Mayor of London, not this Sadiq Khan. He's the real Lord of Mayor. He's the real Lord of Mayor, and the remembrancer is his man. The real Lord of the real Mayor of London Lord Mayor of London
It's in the,
is the Lord
it's
Mayor
in
of the city
the nod
of
whether
London.
something goes through or not.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
was saying about us having a defrocked democracy. We've also got a defrocked monarchy as well, because the Queen can't even enter the city of London without knocking on the door and asking first or something, isn't it? Just to,
Well, that's the Black Rod. That's the Black Rod, and you'll see him next week banging on the door.
Is it next week he gets his stockings and bangs on the door?
He does it. I think so, Paul. Indeed, yes, he does. He does his he does his thing. These 3 knocks on the door, asking to come in, the Queen, because you know it's not part of her crown. Yeah, this is not. Has to ask permission to come into there.
As
So,
I've said,
you know,
I think that's where the thing comes in.
we live in a defrocked democracy.
absolutely.
And a defrocked monarchy. The Queen has actually apparently got the power to dissolve a parliament or a government. She can dissolve a parliament.
She doesn't anymore. She doesn't anymore because her grandfather, sorry, her great grandfather, was it her grandfather, George V, gave the royal prerogative House of Commons, and they own the power of assent, not the Queen. She's dethroned. She was dethroned before she even took the oath, and she didn't take the oath anyway because it was all unlawful because of the procedure. And soon as she gave, or allegedly gave, she can't give royal assent to anything because the power was stolen away. Her great grandfather George V gave it away with a deal with the Fabian liberals at the time before, right? That when they passed the Parliament Act in 1913. Now, if you're listening, Gina, isn't that amazing? 1913.
1913.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Parliament Act.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's
The monster on Jekyll Island, our Federal Reserve, was created in 13.
Jekyll Island.
It's all been usurped from 1913. The Federal Reserve in America.
That's when the first part of stealing the Constitution from the Lords began. They stopped the House of Lords ruling on any monetary bill from 1913 onwards. And when George VII, I think not George, Edward VII wouldn't give his royal prerogative up, but he died soon after. As soon as George V came in, they done him up like a kipper over a deal with Ireland, and he surrendered the world. So they got the 3-tier constitution nullified. They grabbed absolute power in Parliament.
So we haven't really got a monarch then, have we, Stav? All we've got is a mascot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless she turned around and said, I'm having this no more. I'm going to be a real head sovereign for the sovereigns, which are the people are the sovereigns.
Yeah.
Going to bring this lot down. She has the power to do it still if she wants it. See what happens. Maybe you may see, who knows? I mean, wonders of.
So now just under 100 years, the only thing that's really blocking them is Russia. And Russia's got a score to settle with the Rothschilds, because it was the Rothschilds that had the Tsar killed.
Yeah, and that's when this all started to go. You notice the timing date. We have Gina there in the Jekyll Island and the Federal Reserve, 1913. What followed straight after that? Bankruptcy and the Bradbury Pound. And then we had the First World War. Wow. And then we had to lead to the Second World War. And then we had all of this bullshit afterwards with the Bretton Woods Agreement and all the rest of this crap, you know?
Yeah, don't forget 1921, in between the 2 world wars, they busted every union over here in America that had blacks and whites working together. They burned Black Wall Street, June 1921, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was an African-American business. They had an economy of their own, and they, corporate master couldn't have, these types of flourishing neighborhoods. So they burned Black Wall Street down, June 1921. The international, they called them the Wobblies in Louisiana and Texas, had black and white union, working in the same union in the sawmills, and so they destroyed that. And in August 1921, my great granddaddy marched on Blair Mountain, which was a union, had black, white, and immigrants all getting paid the same thing. So that gets hid. That's history that's hid because they don't want mankind to figure out that we have been throwaway tools working as serfs since the Peasants' Revolt. We haven't had a chance to be free, whether the Statue of Liberty stands in the New York Harbor or not. That's a bunch of bullshit. We don't have any freedom.
No, that's right, Gina. You're absolutely right. That all ties in America,
Yeah.
and the British and the English, sorry, with the stealing of the Constitution,
So
the
who is
setting
the
up of the
cause of
Federal
this?
Reserve. And in between that date that you're on about the unions, the American Jewry, the Rothschilds, set up Bolsheviks for Trotsky. And we all know what happened then, don't we?
Yeah, the Tsar got taken out.
Yes. We had a Russian Revolution financed by the American Jewry and the Masons, the English Masons, and the whole shebang got behind.
So where does the fingers point all the time? The international bankers, every time.
Yeah. And of course, we had the Zionist movement was one of the hinge-pins behind it all, and we know how that all plays out, and we all know about the Balfour Treaty. We can link all these things all up because they were put there. They weren't just happened to come around and business. They were all put there in place, and we're all up to where we are now. Now, people, do they want common law? Do the American people want do they want their forefathers Bill of Rights? Do they want to stand behind their amendments? Do they want to stand for something that's decent and morals, or do they want to just let this whole thing go to shit, like we're doing over here with the EU and the uncontrolled immigration? A lot of these are
the uncontrolled, weaponized immigration, you mean?
Yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's weaponized immigration. It's all been planned. It's all been engineered.
Yeah, that's the Richard Coudenhove-Kalergi plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, all of this, what we're talking about, well, they don't want it out there. They've tried to suppress it, and they will suppress it. They'll bring out this anti-fascist, liberal, Soros-backed bullshit in the streets with their black masks on and their attitude.
Yeah, that's all the divide and rule tactic. The ancient divide and rule tactic. If they get fighting amongst themselves, that's it. They can get on with what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just saying, if people want human rights, if they want to stand up for their Strasbourg human rights, then fine, go for it. But you don't need the EU.
No.
It's nothing to do with the EU. It's just something that was given to the people of Europe, right, after a war, right, after this war. Doesn't matter who brought it about, or why they brought it about, but the Strasbourg European Convention of Human Rights, I think when Michael left a thing on the side here, it's from the Magna Carta anyway. It comes from the English Constitution. I wouldn't say word for word the American Constitution.
No, but the basic
of the English Constitution, but a lot of it does. Yeah. And it was written by an Englishman who went over there, a bloke called Thomas Paine. If I'm right, is that right, Gina?
Yeah, Thomas Paine.
Pain in the bum.
Nice guy. Yeah, nice guy, that Thomas Paine. He had some great ideas.
But you see, the thing is, a lot of people think, well, it can't do. We're American people. We're not like that. The British, or it's like the Australians. I'm not like you, Gina, because you know your history. You've done your studying, you've done your research, and rightly so. But the average American or the average Australian, palmy bastards. We're a Republic of Australia. We're nothing to do with you palmies. And that's the way they are, because that's the way they've been indoctrinated. but they won't look at you know, they won't look at their exported culture.
They're too busy on the beaches with the Barbies, aren't they? You see, so you know they ain't got time to research.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? It all came here because we were a load of warring tribes. We'd had 500 years of Roman rule. They never mixed. There's not even 0.1% in the DNA of the English people of Roman, because we weren't conquered by Rome and they took us over and completed us with you know,
They subjugated
genocide.
us. That's what they done.
That's all. They ruled us from afar. We were not with northernmost outreach of their empire at that time. We had 500 years of that, of the Roman Empire, and then it fell away because, you know, like anything becomes too big, it implodes because it overreaches and it just gets too big and it gets too big to sustain itself, like nature does. And the societies and empires are no different. So. And then it was disarray. I don't care how it came about. It was mercenaries that were sent for, and a British, a Celtic British, a Romano British chief was being overrun by Picts from the north, which are the Scots and Ireland, coming over Adrian's Wall, and he needed some mercenaries. They sent across to the Plight people. That's what oath means, a Saxon, Plight, yeah. And they came over, but you know, Vortigern, who was the chief at the time, said, "What, you've driven them back, and that you can go home now." And they went, "No, you promised land to stay here," and that. And of course, they called for the rest of their mates over, and the rest is history. We had 200 or 300 years of that coming in, and it was all war. Along come Alfred the Great, said, "Let's sort this out," and he pushed the Danes back, this, that, and the other. And he brought his common law in, and we all lived happily ever after. Not happily ever after, but we all stopped warring. And that's where our common law comes from, him. So you know, it was a good thing. And but the common law came from Alfred the Great, and all the rest of the enactments, from Edward the Confessor's Law to the Charter of Liberties, to the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights, the Settlement Acts, and all the rest of it, are all reaffirmations of Alfred the Great's common law. So, you know, when they say you got no constitution, that means we have no common law. So what on earth are they applying what they call law?
Well, Stav, I've just been looking at some quotes from a very famous politician who was one of the good guys in British politics, Tony Benn, and he put this quote: "In the course of my life, I've developed 5 little democratic questions. If one meets a powerful person, Adolf Hitler, Joe Stalin, or Bill Gates, ask them 5 questions. What power have you got? Where did you get it from? In whose interest do you exercise it? To whom are you accountable? And how can we get rid of you? If you cannot get rid of the people who govern you, you do not live in a democratic system."
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
brilliant guy. He came out with all sorts of good quotes, that guy. Things like, if we can find the money to kill people, we can find the money to help people. Things like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's it, really. It's quite simple. Very simple. And the world would be a lot better if everybody, you know,
Was simple.
come to that. I'm not saying at the end of the day, if people want rules, if they want a system and it's fair and that everybody agrees to it, then fine. I'm not going to stop anybody. It's not, you know, I'd be a hypocrite to say you can't do this. You can't. Anybody's entitled. You can ask anything. This is the crazy thing. Anybody can ask anything. It doesn't come to law. You know, can you give me, Jeff, give me £1,000. You're going to say, piss off, Stav, do I owe you? And you're saying, no, I can ask you. Ask you. They're not breaking any law.
No.
You know, you could ask me to do me in if you wanted. You could ask, and if I said, yeah, okay, Jeff, do me in, you done me in.
But is extracting money with menaces, then is a different matter.
Yes.
So here's a good quote by Tony Benn. "I think there are 2 ways in which people are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them." Isn't that true of our times now that we're living in? That's spot on, isn't it? Clever bloke. Writing them and demoralising them, and then you've got total control over them. You can manipulate them to do exactly what you want.
Anyway, guys, I'm
But
surprised.
the thing is,
I'm surprised I've kept on this long, but I'm going to have to go now.
okay, okay, Paul. Well, thanks for joining us. I don't know what happened to Michael. I think he lost his connection.
Yeah,
Or
I think,
he had a microphone problem, didn't he?
yeah. Well, thanks for having
But it's
us.
all good.
Good,
No,
interesting.
you're welcome. You're welcome, Paul. You're welcome, and we'll catch up with you next week if we've got something to talk about. I'd like to talk about some things like I see certain things out there that could be solutions or leading to solutions. It'd be nice if we had a chat about those. All perfectly lawful, of course.
Yeah. Well, it was nice to talk to you
you know,
again. It's also Gina, and nice to talk to you, Jeff. Adios, gringos. Catch you on the side.
You take care.
Yeah, much love.
Cheers, Paul. Well, I'm going to stop this broadcast now because I think we've pretty much covered it all. Unless there's any last words you want to say about it, Gina?
I'm just glad to get on with you guys and hear a little bit about what's going on over in across the water.
Hey, that's cool. I'm sorry for ranting on, but once I get going, I get going.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. As we're all signing off, I'll hang on till we're all signed off.
One thing I'd like to pipe in with.
I'll say cheers, guys. Thanks for coming in, and I'll click the broadcast off. Thanks very much for coming along.
Whoa! Before you click it off, I just wanted to say before we close, I'd just like to say that I think UKIP's going to make a comeback. And it's strange, but I think they're going to stuff us on Brexit. This is my opinion. I think they've done all this so that they can say we're going to have a soft Brexit now, or a no Brexit, or throw another referendum at us, or whatever.
Nigel just led everybody into a cul-de-sac, hasn't he?
Well, he's said recently that if things don't go right with Brexit, there's a good chance he's going to get back into it and take over in UKIP again. And so he could be making a comeback, which would be a good thing. I think he's a guy that's done great things for British politics, or he's attempted to anyway with Brexit. So we'll see anyway. Time will tell.
All right, Jeff. Well, we watch this space. That's Jeff's prediction, and I'm not going to argue with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes the UKIP leader again and gets on his bike again and starts going around. And I don't know. I don't know whether the MEP Parliament. I don't know how long you can serve for when it's up, or is he still an MEP? I don't know.
Well, if he became an MP again, then I suppose he'd have to give up his MEP job, wouldn't he? But he's sounds like he's going to make a comeback anyway. Well, UKIP's definitely done and dusted.
Actually, I thought he was Trump's new senator.
Nice.
Yeah, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. You just don't know, do you? Okay. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for coming in, and we'll do it again sometime.
Cheers, Paul. Cheers, Jim.